Okay, my dear children, now in the earlier chapter we discussed several MCQ questions related with our lesson. Now within this part also we'll discuss some MCQ questions and also some other essay type and writing down questions. Okay, we'll discuss several essay type questions plus another some different kinds of questions related to the lesson. So first of all, let's move on with the MCQ ones. Higher brain activities of a human is controlled by, so you know that if you take the higher brain activities of a human is controlled by the cerebrum. So let's find out the cerebrum. Yes, cerebrum is given here. Cerebrum is the answer. Impulses are, so I think you could remember we discussed about the impulses. Impulses are electrical signals, my dear children. So it's really easy. Impulses are electrical signals. These are electrical signals. Right. The two main parts in the skin. Cerebellum and cerebrum. Incorrect. These parts are contained in the brain. Dermis and epidermis. Yes, this is our answer. Dermis and epidermis are the two main parts contained in the skin. Epidermis and medulla, no, medulla is incorrect. That is a part contained in the brain. Medulla and dermis, once again medulla is included, so it is also incorrect. Right? So our answer would be for the 23rd question, dermis and epidermis. A main excretory product of protein digestion. So during the protein digestion, a main excretory product which is getting created should be nitrogen base, right? So you know that, my dear children, nitrogen based excretory substances are getting secreted or getting eliminated from our body by the kidney. So find out a substance that has nitrogen specially secreted by the kidney. So let's see. Water, salts, uric acid, none of the above. So urea and uric acid contain nitrogenous waste. So uric acid would be our correct answer, right? Urine in the body is expelled by, kidney, anus, urethra and skin. So urethra is our answer. Not a biological process that occur in cells of human being. Not a biological process. It should not be a biological process. So respiration, digestion of food, production of urine, production of proteins. Respiration, we know that is correct. Production of urine, once again it is correct, because then the third, because you know that urine is getting produced. Urine means removal of excretory substances, right? So urine production is happening within the cells inside the kidneys, right? So it is correct. Then production of proteins, this is also correct. Within the cells, right? Protein is getting produced. So my dear children, the incorrect answer would be digestion of food, right? This is not a biological process that occur within the body, right? So I told you how the digestion process is going to occur. By drawing out a certain figure, I explained how it is going to occur, right? Helps to keep the moisture in the skin. So you know that sebum, which is carried in the third answer, is the one which is going to help to keep the moisture level in our body. So sebum is our answer. It's not sweat, it's not water vapor, right? Sweat is the removal of it. It helps to remove excretory products, right? Water vapor is a one substance that can be observed in sweat. Actually, it's not water vapor, it's in the form of water, right? A receptor. Receptor means a sensory organ. So you have to select a sensory organ from here. Legs, skin, arms, heart. So skin is the sensory organ that can be observed, right? So the receptor is the skin. Coordinating the body organs by hormones is known. So coordinating the body organs by using hormones, this is referred as endocrine coordination. So find out endocrine coordination. Yes, my dear children, it's given in the fourth answer. So it's not mechanical coordination, it's not nervous coordination at all, it's not hormone coordination. Hormone coordination is also correct up to a certain point, certain level, but however we have to choose the most accurate answer. So the most accurate answer for this question is endocrine coordination. Next one, an effector. An effector means it should be a muscle. So it's the first and foremost one, you are given with facial muscles. So facial muscles are effectors, right? When you look at a certain person, if you know that person very well, then you are going to give him or her, right? You are going to greet him or her by using a smile. So when you are smiling, right? When you are smiling, you can move facial muscles. So that is a effector. Okay. A hormone, thyroid, thyroxine, glycogen, steroid. So my dear children, I explained about the hormones. I gave you different examples for the hormones when we are doing that nervous coordination, endocrine coordination part, right? I gave you some examples. I have explained how these things are going to work. So apart from those examples, I told you an example, thyroxine. So thyroxine is the hormone that controls the metabolic rate within our body. So it controls the metabolic rate within our body. So my dear children, answer for this one is thyroxine. Thyroxine is a hormone. Glycogen is not a hormone, it's a type of a carbohydrate contained in animals. Thyroid gland, it's a gland. That's the gland which secretes the thyroxine hormone. So it's a type of an organ, small bit of an organ which is located, right, in our body. So that's the part which is going to secrete this thyroxine hormone. Right then. Not a function of cerebrospinal fluid. Not a function. Absorb shocks, supply nutrients. All of absorb shocks is absolutely correct. Supplying nutrients, that is also correct. Because you know that cerebrospinal fluid is going to nourish the brain and the spinal cord. So it is correct. Prevents microbial infections. Correct. That is also correct. Production of energy needed for the brain and the spinal cord. That one is incorrect, my dear children. Right? So this is the incorrect one. This is the function which is not a one of the cerebrospinal fluid. Right then, let's move on with the next question. Not a protective measure to have healthy skin. Not a protective measure to have a healthy skin. Having good hygiene. So having a good hygiene is an example to have a good and a healthy skin. So that is correct. Having vaccines. Let's keep it in the same way and we'll consider about the other points. Not sharing clothes. That is correct. Not sharing clothes. That is correct. Eating food with good nutrition value. That is also correct. In order to have a good and healthy skin, we have to have a good nutritional value. In order to have good nutritional value, we have to eat good food. So all of these things are correct. So my dear children, the remaining answer would be having vaccines, right? Having different kinds of vaccines for different kinds of other diseases is not going to affect with the healthiness of the skin, right? Doesn't have an impact on the healthiness of the skin. So my dear children, answer would be the second one, right? Not an excretory organ. Lungs, kidney, skin, all of these are, right, excretory organs. We wrote these things when we are discussing about the questions related to the textbook. So all of these things are excretory organs. So the incorrect answer is the stomach, right? Stomach is not a, it is not a excretory, it is not an excretory organ, my dear children, right? Main pair of vitamins necessary for the skin. So main pair of vitamins necessary for the skin is vitamin A. So here you can observe two answers with vitamin A. One is with A and D and the other one is A and E. You know that A and D, the vitamin D is getting produced from the skin. It's not necessary in plenty for the skin, right? So the answer for this one would be vitamin A and E. So vitamin A and E are the two vitamins that that the skin need in plenty in order to have a healthy and a good skin. The process which pass excretory products from the body is known as, it's really simple my dear children, we discussed this thing earlier also. The process of releasing or process of removing excretory substances from the body is called the excretion, right? This is called the excretion, okay? Regulates and coordinates of body balance. Regulates and coordinates of body balance. So body balance is coordinated by, right, the cerebellum. It's coordinated by the part cerebellum. So cerebellum would be our answer. All the nerves in the body outside the brain and spinal cord are. All the nerves located inside the body, right? All the nerves located inside the body, but out of the brain and spinal cord. Out of the brain and spinal cord are known as not the cranial nerves, not the spinal nerves. These are referred as peripheral nerves. These are referred as peripheral nerves. Actually, peripheral nerves can be divided into two main categories as cranial and spinal nerves, right? So all the nerves, including cranial and spinal nerves, are referred as peripheral nerves, right? Pigment that determines the skin color. Really simple, my dear children. It's not melamine, okay? It's melanin, right? It's melanin. Melanin is the answer, right? Melanin, not meningenes. Meningenes are the ones which is going to provide a protection and nourish the brain and the spinal cord. Okay. Nerve endings which detect the pressure, touch and temperature are located in which part of the skin? So you know that if you take the epidermis, epidermis is very thin and it has several cell layers, that's it. Even the dead cells can be observed in the epidermis. So therefore, my dear children, almost all the components contained within the skin is observed within the dermis. So answer for this thing would be the dermis. So nerve endings which can detect the pressure, touch and temperature are located in the dermis. Right, so we have discussed several MCQ questions. Now let's move on to see other types of questions given in the given with the regard of the lesson human organ system. So mainly you will be receiving, right, most of the times you in your papers you will be receiving a diagram so that you can mark, right, the components. So I have prepared several diagrams here. So in each of diagrams you have to mark the correct responses which are labeled. So let's see what is our first figure. Right, the first figure. Name the given parts in each of the figures. Now this is the first figure which is given under that question. So let's see what are the parts given in here, my dear children. So first of all, from 1, blood is coming towards the, right, blood is coming towards the kidneys, right, blood is coming towards the kidneys from 1. So if you take, right, if you take number 1, that's the main artery in our body which supplies the blood. So 1 is aorta. Aorta. Okay, my dear children. So the second part. So second part, here you can observe the second part, the second kidney. This is located to somewhat up. So left kidney is the located. Left kidney is the part which is located somewhat up rather than the right kidney. So this is left kidney. So if second is left kidney, you know seventh one is right kidney. Right? Left kidney and the right kidney. Right, then we'll go for the number 3. Number 3, these are the ureters that's going to transport urine. Ureters. Ureters. Right? Number 4. In number 4, you can observe the bladder. Number 4 is the bladder and number 5 is the urethra. Bladder, urethra. Then the final one, number 6. Right? There is another one, number 6. So if you check number 6 is connected. See, number 6 is connected with the 8. See, number 6 is connected with number 8. Number 8 value is going upward. It's going upward. Right? Means that blood coming out from the kidneys is going out. So blood is coming out from the kidneys, my dear children. Right? Blood is coming out from the kidneys. Right? Here, blood is coming out from the kidneys. I'm going to undo these two so that you can see it very clearly. See, number 6. Number 6 is pointing these two. Blood is going out. So if blood is going out, it should be veins. Right? It should be veins. Veins are the ones which is going to carry blood out from an organ. Right? Towards the organ by arteries, away from the organ by veins. So this special valve or this special vein is referred as the renal vein. Renal vein. Number 6, renal veins. Then number 7 we marked right kidney. Number 8. So number 8, right? When you take number 8 is this figure. See, this one is number 8, directing outwards. Right? That is number 8. Right, my dear children? So number 8, if you take this number 8 1, number 8 is the one marked in here. So once again I'm going to show you. See here, this one, this is the number 8 one. So number 8, my dear children, it's the part which the blood is flowing out from the kidney. It's not the renal veins. Renal veins are getting connected to number 8. So this is called as the inferior vena cava. Inferior vena cava. Right? Also it is being named as posterior. Posterior vena cava is also correct. So this one is not marked in the diagram. It's not been marked in the diagram, right? This one over here, there is no number for this one. Actually, this is the renal artery, right, which is going to supply the blood. This is, I'll mark it as number 9. So I'll mark the 9th one by taking the slide somewhat up. So 9th one, renal arteries, right? So this is number 9, renal artery. Renal arteries, right? Renal arteries. Okay then, so this is the first figure which you are given with. Okay, right. So let's move on with the second figure, my dear children. Right, so in the second figure, right, in the second figure, you can observe a cross section of a kidney. Second figure, you can observe the cross section of a kidney. So number 1, it represents the cortex, right, cortex, and number 2, medulla, right, these pyramids, medulla. Number 3, that's the tube which runs towards the urethra, ureter, right, ureter. Number 4, it's the pelvis, right, renal pelvis. Pelvis. Number 5, the one which is in blue color, number 5, that's the one which is going to suck out all the blood, which is going to transport blood towards the body, right? From the kidney, the blue color valve is going to take out blood, okay? So it's going to carry blood out from the kidney. So this blue color one, number 5, is the renal vein. Renal vein. So if the blue color one is renal vein, red color one is the one which is going to carry blood towards the kidney. So it's the renal artery. Renal artery, right? So this is the second figure, my dear children. Cortex, medulla, ureter, number 3, number 4, renal pelvis, number 5, renal vein, number 6, the renal artery, right? Okay, so let's move on with the third figure. So in the third figure, you are given with the parts of the central nervous system, which includes the brain and the spinal cord. So let's mark the parts. Number 1, this is the protective layer or the protective bone of the body, especially of the brain. So this is the skull. Skull. Number 2, the outermost layer of the brain is consisting meninges. Number 3, that is the cerebrum. Cerebrum. Number 4, cerebellum. Cerebellum. Number 5, medulla. Finally, number 6, the spinal cord. Spinal cord. So, skull, meninges layer, then the cerebrum, number 4 medulla, number 4 cerebellum, starting part of the spinal cord, number 5 medulla, then finally spinal cord is the number 6. Right then, figure number 4. So in the figure number 4, you can observe once again a figure related to the central nervous system. So these number 4, first of all, I'll start from these ones. So these nerves are arising from the spinal cord. So if they are arising from the spinal cord, these are spinal nerves, right? Spinal nerves. Spinal nerves. There are 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Number 2, here this one, this nerve is arising from the brain. So if it is arising from the brain, then it is referred as the cranial nerves. Cranial nerves. Cranial nerves. Right? Cranial nerves. Cranial nerves. So, if number 2 is a cranial nerve, then number 1 is the brain. Right? If number 4 is the spinal nerve, then number 3 is the spinal cord. Right. So, my dear children, first you can observe the brain, then the nerves arising from the brain are cranial nerves, then you can observe the spinal cord. Nerves arising from the spinal cord are spinal nerves, right? Okay. Next one. Figure of a skin is given, right? So, let's mark the figure related to the skin. Number 1, the thin layer of the skin. Thin layer of the skin that has several cell layers is the epidermis. Number 1, epidermis. Number 2, here you can observe number 2. Number 2 is the dermis then. Dermis. Number 3. So, number 3, that is the fat layer contained within the skin. Below the dermis, you can observe that fat layer. So, fat cells or fat layer is the third part contained in the figure. Fat layer or fat cells, both are correct as they are directing towards that fat layer. Fat cells or fat layer. Okay. Next one, number 4. So, number 4 is directing towards this one. This is the sweat gland. Sweat gland. Sweat gland. Right. Then, number 5. Number 5 are the, right, number 5 are the capillaries. capillaries. Right, my dear children. Then number 6. So number 6 is directing towards this muscle which is connected with the hair. So this is hair reactor muscle. Hair reactor muscle. Number 7 is directing towards these nerves. So these are nerve endings. Nerve endings. Number 8 is directing towards this part which is associated with the hair follicles. So that's the part which is going to produce, or that's the gland which is going to produce sebum, sebaceous gland. Number 9, the final one, you can observe the hair stem. Hair stem. Right. So these are the parts contained in the figure related to the skin. Number 1, you can observe the epidermis. Number 2, the dermis, the fat layer or the fat cells. Number 4, you can observe the sweat glands, right? Number 5, you can observe blood capillaries. Number 6, the hair reactor muscle. Number 7 is pointing out the sebaceous gland. Then finally, number 7, nerve endings. Number 8, sebaceous gland. And finally, number 9, the hair stem, right? Given in here. So these are the parts contained in the figure related to the skin. So let's move on with the next figure. So in the next figure, you are given with a diagram of the central nervous system. So let's mark number 1, right? So number 1 is directing towards this column. So this is the spinal column, right? It is the spinal column that is going to provide the protection needed for the spinal cord. So spinal column, number 1. Right? Spinal column. Okay. Right, my dear children. So the next one, number 2. So if you check the number 2, this is the spinal cord which runs through the spinal column. Okay. So number 2, spinal cord. Spinal cord. Number 3. Number 3 is the starting part of the spinal cord, right? Number 3 is the starting part of the spinal cord. So the starting part of the spinal cord is referred as the medulla. So number 3 is medulla, right? Number 4, this is the, you know that the largest part of the brain is the cerebrum. So we'll name cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. Then number 4, my dear children, beneath the cerebrum you can observe cerebellum. Cerebellum. So spinal column, then the spinal cord, medulla, cerebellum, and finally the cerebrum. Right. Name the given parts once again. So here, this is the figure of a kidney. Largest one is the one which is going to produce blood. Not to produce, but to transport blood towards the kidney. Largest valve given in here is the one which is going to, right, it is the one which is going to transport blood towards the kidney. So it's the one which is going to provide blood towards the kidney. So number 2 is that one, not number 1. Number 2 then reflects the renal artery. Renal artery. Then in number 3 you can observe the ureter once again. Then if you take number 1, my dear children, beneath the largest one, below it you can observe the renal vein. Renal artery, renal vein and the ureter, right? So number 1 is the renal vein as it is somewhat smaller. Number 2 is the renal artery as it is somewhat larger. Renal artery is the one which is carry blood into the kidneys, and renal vein is the one which is going to carry blood away from the kidneys. And third part is the ureter. Once again you are given with a figure to identify the main parts contained in the brain. So number 1, this is the medulla. Number 1 is the medulla. Number 2 is the cerebellum. Number 3, here, third one, this is the cerebrum. Medulla, cerebellum and cerebrum. Okay. Right. So the largest part is the cerebrum. Upon that or beneath that you can observe number 2, the cerebellum. Then the starting part of the spinal cord, the medulla. Right then. So my dear children, we have marked several figures, right? So most of the times under this question you will be under this lesson you will be giving out questions in your papers about the markings, right? Diagram markings. So once again I am going to give you, or I am going to remind these things contained in each of our figures. So let's head on with the last one once again. So this is, in this diagram we can observe the 3 main parts contained in the brain. Number 3, right? Number 3 is the largest area of the brain, which is the cerebrum. Number 2, under the cerebrum you can observe the second most important part of the brain, cerebellum. Then finally the starting position of the spinal cord, the medulla, right? Then, right, the renal vein, renal artery and the ureter, right? So I'll go to the front and come back once again. Figure 4, figure 3, figure 2 and figure 1. Here we go then. So let's see. Once again we are going to recheck our figures. So here, number 1, here you can observe the parts in the urinary system. Number 1 is the aorta, which carries blood in towards any kind of a system. So aorta, after that you can observe the left kidney. Number 2, number 3, these are the ureters. Number 4, the bladder, which is going to store urine. Number 5, urethra, which is helpful to expel urine from our body. Then number 6 is the renal vein, right? Renal veins. And number 7, the right kidney. Number 8, the inferior vena cava, which is going to carry blood away from the kidneys. This is also referred as posterior vena cava. Then after that, finally, number 9, it's not been marked on the diagram, but however I have marked it. Number 9 is the renal arteries. So if you move on with the second figure is showing once again a cross section of a kidney. So in number 1 you can observe the cortex. Number 2, which carries the renal pyramids, it is the part which is referred as the medulla. Then number 3, you know, it is the ureter. Then after that, number 4, you can observe here, it is the renal pelvis. Number 5, the renal vein, which is going to carry blood out of the kidney. Number 6, renal artery, which is going to carry blood into the kidney. So this is figure number 2. Figure number 3, once again you are given with a part of several parts related to the brain. Number 1, the skull, which is going to provide the protection needed for the brain. So if you take the outermost layer of the brain, it is covered with the meningeal tissues. Then after that, you can observe the largest part of the brain, cerebrum. Then you can observe the smaller part, this one. This is the cerebellum. Starting position of the, right, number 5, starting position of the spinal cord, medulla. Then finally you can observe the spinal cord. Figure number 3, my dear children. So next one, figure number 4. So this is all about with the peripheral nervous system, right? So number 1 is the brain. So if brain is getting connected with a certain type of a nerve, these nerves are referred as cranial nerves. So number 3 is the spinal cord. If certain nerve is connected with the spinal cord, these nerves are called as spinal nerves. Next one, next figure number 5, related to the skin. So the thinnest layer in the skin, epidermis, thickest layer in the skin, dermis. Beneath that, you can observe the fat layer. Then after that, number 4, you can observe glands like number 4, sweat gland. Then you can observe the number 8 here, number 8 associated with the hair follicles. You can observe sebaceous glands. Then after that, small bit of nerves contained here are blood capillaries. After that, hair reactor muscle, right? Hair reactor muscle in number 6 here, you can observe hair reactor muscle. Then number 7, nerve endings, right? Nerve endings helps to process the sensors, nerve endings. Here you can observe under number 7, nerve endings. Number 8, sebaceous glands, right? The 2 types of glands, sebaceous glands and the sweat glands. Then finally, number 9, the hair stem. So this is figure number 5 related to the parts of a skin. Figure number 6 once again reflects the central nervous system. So the protective layer, first of all, it's going to give a protective or it's going to give protection for the spinal cord. Number 1 is the spinal column then, right? Spinal column. Then number 2 is the spinal cord. Number 3, starting part of the spinal cord, medulla. Number 4, cerebellum, which helps to keep the body balance. Number 5, the cerebrum. Right. Then figure 7 and figure 8 we discussed already in the second time also. So my dear children, I hope that you took a good knowledge about identifying several parts related to a given figure under these organ systems. So let's move on with the next type of questions then. Okay. So in the third question, you are given to write down correct answers. So a figure is given here once again. So first of all, you have to name the parts given in the figure. So if you take A is reflecting the largest part of the brain. So the largest part of the brain is cerebrum. Cerebrum. B, underneath the largest part, the smaller part, which is mentioned in here. B, cerebellum. right? Cerebrum, cerebellum. Then C, starting position of the spinal cord. C, medulla. Then finally D, it is the spinal cord. Spinal cord, right. So A, the largest part, cerebrum. B, underneath the largest part, you can observe the cerebellum. C, starting position of the spinal cord, medulla. D, finally, the layer or the line which runs through this vertebral column or the spinal column is called the spinal cord. Right. Write a function each carried out by A, B and C. So A, controls, A is the cerebrum. So A controls memory, intelligence, learning, right? Those types of higher brain activities. So controls higher brain activities. Controls higher brain activities. B, cerebellum. Cerebellum helps to maintain body balance. So it maintains body balance. Number 3, right? Number 3, the medulla. So my dear children, medulla is going to control involuntary actions, right? Controls involuntary actions. Controls involuntary actions. Right. So A controls higher brain activities. B maintains body balance. C controls involuntary, right? Involuntary actions. Right. So these are the functions carried out by each of the parts labeled with A, B and C, right? Right. So each of the parts carried out by A, B and C. So I'm going to erase this thing. One A is missing, right? Okay. Involuntary actions. Right. So A controls the higher brain activities. B maintains body balance. C controls involuntary actions. A function each for A, B and C. Right then. Name the part responsible for each given activity. For each of given activities here, you have to write down the part which is responsible. So it's important to write down the letter which corresponds the correct given part. Don't write the name, my dear children. By using the figure, you have to give the answer. So therefore, remember to mention the letter, not the name. So first one, recognition of sensors. So sensors all are getting stored within the memory of the brain. So memory of the brain is getting activated from the cerebrum. So A, cerebrum relays messages from the brain. So you know that messages from the brain is getting carried out, or that is getting carried out by the spinal cord. So D is our answer. D is our answer. D is the part which is going to relay messages from brain and towards the brain. Controls non-voluntary functions. So non-voluntary functions, involuntary functions, both the same thing. So involuntary or non-voluntary functions are carried out by, or they are controlled by medulla. So medulla, here you can observe under the part C. Controls non-voluntary functions, medulla. Regulation and coordination of body balance. So regulation and coordination of body balance is carried out by the smaller part contained here beneath the cerebrum, which is referred as part B, the cerebellum, right? Cerebellum, part B. Finally, controls the movements of muscles. Within brackets you are given voluntary muscles. So if you take voluntary muscles, those are the muscles that we can think and control. So if we can think and control, we are thinking by using the cerebrum cortex, right? So cerebrum is the one which is responsible in controlling these muscles which are voluntary controlled. So my dear children, answer for the final one is once again A. Right. So these are the answers for this question. So let's move on with the next one. So once again you are given with a figure, right? You are given with a figure. So in this figure you can observe different types of parts, especially these parts reflects about the urinary system. So let's name the parts given in the figure first. A, real simple my dear children, A is the kidney, the most important part in the urinary system, kidney. B, that is the ureter. C, that is the urinary bladder or else bladder. Then D, finally, you can observe urethra. Right? So these are the four main important parts contained in the urinary system. Kidney, ureter, bladder, which the urine is going to store, and finally urethra, which helps to expel the urine from our body. Right, so these are the main parts labeled by A, B, C and D in the figure. So write a function of, you need to write a function of A, B, C and D, right? So if you take A, the kidney is the one which is going to filter blood and to remove excretory substances from the blood. Okay, so kidney helps to filter the blood. So we can write filtration, right? Filtration of blood, right? Filtration of blood. B is the ureter. So transporting of excretory substances or the urine which is getting created, right, towards the bladder is happening from the ureter. So it's going to transport urine out of the kidney out of the kidney to bladder. So it transport urine out of the kidney to the bladder, right? Out of the kidney to the bladder. So I'll erase this part, okay, and I'll mention this answer like this so that you can get more understanding. Filtration of blood, right? Filtration of blood. Then transport urine out of the kidney to bladder. Then part C, bladder. It's going to store, right? Urine. Store urine, right? Then finally D. D is the urethra. It's going to expel, right? Or remove. You can write remove, simple. Remove urine from the body, right? Remove urine from the body. So each of the parts A, B, C, D providing each of these functions. A, the kidney, which is going to filter the blood. B, the ureter, which is going to transport urine out of the kidney to the bladder. Then C, the bladder, it's going to store urine. Then D, it's going to remove urine from the body, which is the urethra, right? Okay then, right, my dear children. So we discussed several contents regarding figures. We discussed several things, okay, MCQs related to our lesson. Now you are given with another question, right? Another type of a question. Question number 4. Match column A with column B. So here also you have to match the column A with column B. So let's see what are the things given in here. Number 1, main organ of nitrogenous excretion. So we found this thing in several places. Once again you are given with the nitrogenous excretion process. So you know that the main organ which provides the nitrogenous excretion is the kidney. So find out kidney. Yes, in J you can identify kidney. So nitrogenous excretion is given by the kidney. Blank is the process that create energy. Blank is the process which create energy. So energy needed for the body is getting created by the process called respiration, right? So find out respiration from here. Yes, in I you can observe respiration. Respiration. Right. Next one. A disease associated with kidney. A disease which is associated with kidney. So let's see the answers. In H you can observe there is an answer called renal failure. So renal failure is a kidney disease. Renal failure means inability to produce urine. It's happening because of the failure of filtration process in the kidney. So my dear children, a disease associated with the kidney, renal failure. Renal failure. barking of a dog can be taken as a, so you know that barking of a dog, imagine you are sleeping, suddenly a dog is going to bark, right? You are waking up suddenly and going here and there and finding out some kind of a stone to throw at the dog so that you can chase away the dog. Or else you are getting up and finding out the source. You are going to check what has happened with the dog, right? So change in the environment which we detected from our ears. We detected that sense, or we detected that stimuli from our ears. So my dear children, barking of a dog can be taken as a simple bit of a stimuli happening in the environment. So barking of a dog can be taken as a stimuli. Next one. Used to control blood glucose level. So I told you about this thing, right? When we are studying about the endocrine glands and their hormones, right? So during the endocrine coordination, I discussed and I have given you the example related to the hormone that controls our blood glucose level. So my dear children, answer for the fifth one is to control the blood glucose level. Insulin is the one that controls the blood glucose level of a human being. Number 6, blank produces vitamin D. So it's really simple, you know that. See, skin is the item, or skin is the organ that is going to produce, right, the vitamin D necessary for the body. So skin is producing vitamin D. Pigment that absorbs sunlight. So that is also really simple. Melanin is the pigment that can absorb sunlight which contained in the skin, right? So find out melanin. Yes, melanin is given in here. Pigment that absorbs sunlight, melanin. Important for a healthy skin, right? It is important for a healthy skin. 2 vitamins are given, vitamin A and vitamin D. D is the vitamin which is getting produced by the skin. So vitamin A is the vitamin which is important for a healthy skin, my dear children. So answer for this question, important for a healthy skin, is vitamin A. Not D, it should be A. Next one. Learning is a process carried out by. It's really simple. Learning is a high, right? It's a high, or else it's a brain activity, right? Higher brain activity. So therefore, higher brain activity is carried out by the cerebrum. Blank helps to maintain the body balance. So body balance is maintained by the cerebellum, which is being here. Right, my dear children. So we matched the column A with column B. So you can see that there is a leftover answer. There is no suitable thing to match with A column for the E or vitamin D in the B column, right? So you are given with 2 answers, vitamin D and A. Remember, our skin is producing vitamin D. For the healthy skin, we need vitamin A and vitamin E. So when you are matching these things, be very careful to select the accurate answer, most suitable answer. Right, my dear children. So we discussed several questions related to this lesson, right? So there are some more questions which are coming, but not in this chapter. We'll continue the other chapters we'll continue our next questions within our next chapter.